In the last episode, we cut the sides of the keel timber down using a medley of circular saws and hand tools. With our open house fast approaching though, it was time to focus on the ballast keel. Well, first off, how's this sun, huh?
On one hand, it is bright and hot in here, which is making working and videoing a little challenging, but on the other hand, it is fantastic for drying paint.
With that said, what do we got going on?
We gave the first coat of paint to the ballast keel, which is super exciting. It's been a long road getting to this point, from collecting lead and cutting up sailboats to melting it down and moving it and fairing it, and now we have something that is, gosh darn it, almost a complete boat part.
It's been quite the transformation going from a rough casting to a faired and painted ballast keel. After topping up the sinkholes, the top and sides were prepared for fairing compound.
Now that we finally got a little bit of warm weather, we can fair the top of the ballast keel. So this morning I set up that containment area, as you can see, and took the file and went through and made sure the top was nice and flat and cleaned up any areas that we were going to put the fairing compound so it could have some good adhesion. And we used the Festool vacuum to clean up after that, and that thing's got a HEPA filter on it, and it is rated for lead dust. So that's good. So the next step is to mix up this total fair, the hardener and the resin, and start gooping this on top of the ballast keel and see if we can fill in those last bit of divots that are left.
That seems challenging to measure.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Although it was a touch tricky to measure, Total Boat's total fair was really easy to work with. We squeegeed it on and used a scrap piece of plywood to level it and move around the excess.
Ballast keel is almost ready to be painted and then mated to the wood keel, which is super exciting. It's been a long time coming. So yesterday we put the fairing compound on the top, and this morning I came out and got suited up and sanded the top flat and then worked on the sides. So the oxidization's gone on the sides. It's all nice and clean. I just need to give it a wipe down, make sure there's any little dust is removed, and then we can start painting. And we're basically going to paint the top 2/3 or so, and then once we flip the ballast keel, we can work on the bottom and we'll paint that last bit later. But we're super excited to see this thing painted. It's going to look good. Just going to give it a quick wipe down here with some paint thinner, and that'll hopefully collect any of the last little dust or any sort of grease or oil or residue that got left on the keel. We'll let that dry, and it should give us a nice base to paint on. Maybe we should buy a paint shaker. How much do you think those things cost? we go try it?
Let's do it.
So we put Total Boat's epoxy primer on it, and we're not really using epoxy much through the build, but we are using the epoxy paint for the ballast keel, because the ballast keel is something that we really don't mind if it is completely sealed up, and the epoxy paint's good for that. So we're gonna put on, I don't know, at least 2, if not 3 or 4 coats on here, and that paint will be permanent. It'll stay on for hopefully all of eternity, and we'll add some bottom paint to it before we launch to keep the critters from growing on it. But it's really great to be getting the lead sealed up, and we no longer need to worry about having exposed lead in the boathouse with visitors and stuff. Because I don't know what it is about this thing, but I swear every person that comes in here wants to go ooh and touch the lead. So now we don't have to worry about that. They can come in and eat their dinner on it, and it's fine.
Which is good, because soon after, we had our annual open house. The beginning of May coincides with Steve's birthday, and it's a perfect opportunity for our amazing community to come together, share some good food, and see the progress on Arabella firsthand.
First of all, thank you everyone for coming. It is amazing to see you all, to meet many of you. We're super grateful. As soon as we're done talking, we're gonna go to the boathouse, and we'd love for folks to come. We'll do a little Q&A, so if you have questions about this whole crazy endeavor, I'm sure others have those same questions, and we'd love to answer them for you. That'll give our hard-working folks here a little bit of time to set up the food as well, so when we get done with that, we should be able to come out and eat. Big round of applause for Stu for manning the grill.
You haven't tasted it yet.
We also want to thank Simon. There's a whole bunch of homemade bread and other accoutrements, and the flour all came from Simon's farm. So he grew it, he cut it, he ground it, and he delivered it. So thank you, Simon, and if you want to check out some of his flour, he's got some over there. It is some of the best flour I've ever had. Highly recommend it.
The other thing too is this is Steve's birthday bash as well, so don't forget to wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday! Right. So we'll see y'all in the boathouse, whoever wants to be there for the Q&A.
To show off Arabella's progress, we set up the keels along with some of the bow and stern assemblies. This allowed people to get an idea of Arabella's size and shape as she comes together. We also held a Q&A session before enjoying a meal of locally raised ham and mutton, along with a plethora of other dishes brought in potluck style. Finally, we rounded out the day with a little bit of spring cleaning.
Hey everybody! So, we have overwhelmingly decided apparently that we are cutting my hair for all the donations. So it's about time.
All right.
Yeah. And now I'm not really sure, but maybe we should raffle off who does it. So I need somebody to cut my hair.
Make him do it himself.
All right.
All right, so there's no length. It's
There's
just go.
no length.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, there it goes. I don't. Oh, this is insane. This is weird.
Your head's gonna feel so light.
I don't know if this is a good idea.
I feel like you
Can we
should
stop?
just- yeah. All right, let me just.
Put it back, put it back. Oh!
It's so bad. It is so bad.
I think we should just keep going. What
I
do you
think we
think?
should just keep going.
All right.
Stop right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it anymore.
Right there.
Did it just get really cold? Oh, this is a bad idea.
Whose idea was this?
That was mine.
Okay. Then I don't feel so bad.
Is that it?
It is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Alright. Well, thank you guys for voting.
Alright, back to work. It's time to start the process of mating the two keels together. In order to start this, we need to flip the ballast keel onto the keel timber. No easy task without heavy machinery. Joe, who's been following our progress and came to the open house, offered his help for the day, which was very much appreciated. After discussing our options, we decided we would employ some bottle jacks to roll the keel until it was upside down, jacking it up high enough to slide the keel timber underneath it, and then finally setting the ballast keel down in place.
If you can, pad this one especially well, because this is actually going to be against the lead before it had a couple layers of wood in there as well. So what I'm thinking is that we can either saddle the wood right up next to it, strap two beams across, put the bottle jacks on it, jack it up, crib it, jack it up, crib it, jack it up, crib it, until it's the point we can slide the wood keel over.
Lifting up the lead and placing it on the wood keel is not an easy process. So, by lifting up one end at a time and cribbing it as we went, we could get it just high enough so that it would be almost level with the top, and at that point we would only need to figure out how to lift it just high enough so that we could slip the wood keel underneath. This would make it a much safer process than trying to lift it the entire way. With the ballast keel cribbed up roughly to the height of the top of the keel timber, now came the tricky part of raising it in such a way that we could still slide the keel timber underneath it. We accomplished this in a similar manner as to when we pulled the ballast casting out of the ground, with timbers above it. However, this time we needed to attach directly to the nib ends, which means we had to protect them from the chains digging into it by building custom boxes. With the ballast keel now precisely in place, we'd be able to ferret out and start working on the deadwood.
And here's the final product. So as you can see, those sharp edges that you saw in the last couple of shots have been ferred out, and the whole thing has been painted, and it looks amazing. We are so excited to get to bolt this thing together. And if you can see behind me here, we are starting to work on the deadwood, and that's going to be the next video, so stay tuned for that.